So good morning, good evening to everyone who is now here and everybody who is going to listen to this recording after or watch this recording. It's really my pleasure to get to know every Monday a different person from the hemp industry from a different part of the world. And this episode I'm particularly very excited about because you, Hana, seem to be like the face of the hemp industry, and your name and your profile comes up with many different connections. So it's really a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Bertrand, for inviting. And yeah, it's my pleasure too to be here with you. And yeah, happy to give a little bit like about my experience and journey in hemp industry to the others, maybe to inspire them to start and or collaborate on something cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. That's the goal. You know, it's the goal to inspire people, to educate people, and also to get them to know more about industrial hemp. So we will talk about your many different connections with industrial hemp in a little bit. But my first question for you would be, how did you find out about hemp? Because we had a little bit of discussion just prior to this call, and I learned that you were in the nuclear industry, you know, and the only connection with the nuclear industry and hemp I can make is that when Chernobyl happened, they used to plant industrial hemp around it because it's set to absorb that harmful, you know, radiant energies and powers. But how did you transition from the nuclear energy sector to industrial hemp?
Oh, yeah, easy. Okay, so I knew about industrial hemp before my nuclear industry job. It wasn't really a nuclear industry job. I have to correct that. It was like work for NGO who was trying to work with the people who live in the areas where like the Czech government wanted to put the final nuclear depository, and it was just like trying to reunite them and doing some a little bit, you know, protecting their rights basically in front of the government. So then I decided to go with my hobby kind of topic as a professional one, because this topic wasn't really much, people didn't want to learn about that or hear about that, and the money in the nuclear industry was very like strong and like good marketing and big budget, and we didn't have that in the NGO when we work with the communities from the areas of uranium mining or nuclear waste depositories. So it was very difficult to convince people or even like listen or understand. And also the topic of nuclear industry is very technical and difficult. Also, even like imagine like something like lifetime disappearance, 10,000 years, you know, it's a little bit like out of the box of our imagination. So like safety for 10,000 years, you know, somebody guarantees, yeah, difficult. So yeah, so I decided to go just with the stuff I like, what I already started to work on at the university when I studied industrial when I studied agriculture farming, like the organic farming at the South Bohemian University here in Czech Republic. And yeah, and I decided to do what I like rather than something what the people have hard time to understand. So I established my company, and my thought was a little bit like yours, like do the shop, sell everything, you know, people will come, people will learn. I did a lot also like little booths. I went around the many events, like the festivals and different kind of events all the time on the tour, maybe for like 20 years. But then I decided to really just focus on few things, and nowadays I just like do the distribution. And yeah, because the experience having shop where to sell everything, I had like very little tiny shop in center of Budweis, and it was difficult to fit there everything. So so it was a little bit naive how I started. I didn't much like think through that, but yeah, it was experience. Yeah, everything bad, if you take it as an experience, can turn into some good. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm very curious because you mentioned that you studied agricultural farming, that out of all those many crops you could grow, why would you choose industrial hemp?
Because it's not that known, and like you doing like school to learn about something, and I like all the other crops was describe it and known, and like there wasn't much like to really like study, It's like already everything out there. So I just decided to go with industrial hemp because it was something new for me, and I was like thinking it's important to put it out there as well and study like the way of like different farming, like agronomies, and also like what's the usage in Czech Republic. It was like 80. I graduated in 99, yeah. So I started in 1997. So it was like very early stage. We just like passed the bill what allows us to grow industrial hemp in Czech Republic, and we just got some registered varieties what we could grow here. So I really like went on the beginning, yeah. And yeah, for me was like very interesting topic, because I always like was like focusing on environment. And basically what was very interesting for me was all the different uses of industrial hemp and its application on different parts of the industry where hemp materials could replace the fossil fuel materials. And this was very something which drives my journey since then, I would say. Because I believe that if we use industrial hemp better, like wider and smarter and bigger scale, we can really achieve some like good results on our like on some environmental impacts with like all these processes and farming practices.
Right. I will ask you a question about that in a little bit, but I'm very curious also to know how that transition happens, or what is the market right now in the Czech Republic. I talked to Aaron a few weeks ago, and he was saying that when they introduced cannabis, they allowed cannabis July the 1st of like 3-4 years ago in Canada, then it kind of didn't help the industrial hemp market. It was kind of damaging the industrial hemp market. So I just want to know, was it the same case or a similar case in the Czech Republic?
Well, like we don't have the regulation for recreational cannabis yet done here, yeah, so it cannot be the same. We work on it, but I would say it's very like two different markets. And I don't think like one can really influence the other, and I will even like don't expect it, because when you talk to users of recreational cannabis, and then you talk to somebody who runs the paper factory and needs like pulp as a supply material, it's like very different like profiles of the client, so and also the interest is different, yeah. The interest of people who smoking, it's like personal, I don't know, spiritual, whatever, experience. And yeah, the industrial hemp, it's always and always just pure business. Yeah, and there's like not like you do industrial hemp for joy. It's a very costly joy, so a very costly like fun project. You don't do such a costly like projects for just fun. Yeah, so it's a pure business. So you need to continue well, prepare well, spend a lot of hours to do that before you even like start. Yeah, so that's not just for fun.
Right. And when you mentioned, farming, and I learned from you as well, you were interviewed for a podcast, was it Lancaster podcast or something recently, as a farmer, that was already a very interesting thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, when I think of farmers, I don't always think women, And with you, I felt like, wow, somebody's doing it. So what did you make leave that behind and go more into the trading?
I started farm hemp for flowers in 2011, much before the extracts and CBD started to be very popular, because I always thought there is some value in the hemp flower. And I started to grow industrial hemp for flower at the farm of my friend who has like organic farm, and he has also biogas power station. So he has a lot of heat, which is kind of secondary product from biogas power station. Besides the electricity, yeah, like you have to kind of cool the motors, which is like burn the gas and you get the waste heat. So we was using this basic heat for drying the flowers, which was like good for him because he could show I'm using the waste heat, so he gets some better rate for the electricity. And we had like cheap heat, you know. So and I was like doing it there like 10 years, but in the COVID it became very difficult to hiring people because we was harvesting flowers by hands, and we was selling. Our main target customer was kind of the tea company, the big tea company, the herbal tea companies.
Right.
But the regulation is also like not easy, and I just decided more like also because of some like family reasons. I decided to just like do the distribution for the moment, and just from 7 or 8 company employees I had in my company to just like do myself, because yeah, some in the family which wasn't really, nobody else will do it. And then I'm just doing distribution because I have a lot of like, after so many years in the industry, I know many people, so I can help people reach out to other people who they're looking for, but they know like, oh, what is it? Is the right person. So yeah, I'm trying to like network people, connect people, consult different customers, and provide them the material that they look for.
Wonderful. You know, and this brings me to the question I wanted to ask when you mentioned that for hemp to grow bigger as a market, then we really need to scale it. And this is something that often comes up. Either you talk about hemp textile or hemp paper or hemp building materials. It always goes back to the source and say how much we have, you know, is it available to scale? Do we have it on a constant basis? And very often, you know, you have to tell people what the reality is, you know, and it's not always kind of appealing. So how did, and what comes out, at least in my experience, is that it's, you know, the bulk production, that as long as you are manufacturing and you can manufacture at scale, you know, like you can do small and you can do huge production as well, then it works out for you. And you can run it on a constant base, you know. But how does it come up? Does it come up as a challenge for you when you are trading, that you don't have enough stock, or you have to, you know, have this like an urgent base that they really need it right now and they cannot wait 4 weeks for it to arrive from somewhere? Are you facing these kind of challenges?
Yeah, usually people want like big volumes, and they don't realize that such a big volumes nobody is going to produce on stock.
Yeah.
It's kind of very risky. So if you want like 100 ton of hemp seeds, you really need to think in the right time, when you're going to talk to farmers, how you're going to put a contract for them to that they will produce for you, and then you can guarantee that you have like your volume, you know, because otherwise it's very difficult, because the hemp industry, it's usually it's basically like everyday topic that like people would like to buy like 5 containers a week, but they get like 2. The company cannot squeeze them between all the contracts what they have in their production, and the scale up of of the production, it's usually not that easy, because you have to attract farmers, you have to talk to them, you need to teach them how to grow. So it's challenges like every step, you know. So yeah, so if somebody think like to have like big volumes, I think it's good to just partner with some company who thinking to set up the decortication line for production of the materials. And then you kind of like one feed in for your material what you need, and then you can a little bit like easier do some deal that you will always have your material. And it can also help like the projects who are out there but like looking for investment to become more like, yeah, more feasible to be realized, something like that. Yeah.
Right. Where do you see the solution for this? You know, because you mentioned it's an everyday topic, and one of them is to get ready for it. As you say, like either you are a company and then you are going to like partner up with the decortication plant, so you have access to the raw material, and also the mindset that you plan ahead. If I need, let's say, I don't know, the 100 tons or building materials, or 10 tons of, or several tracks of hemp seeds, then I need to plan ahead for it. But what would be the solutions if you think globally for this challenge?
Like globally, I think it's important that we keep the hemp production as some like regular local production, that like every country will produce it, and like will, because like now we see that like we shipping like few thousand tons of hemp material importing to Czech Republic, you know, like 1,000 tons. What can be easily grown here and produced here, you know? So, but nobody invested in the project to make it happen, you know, yet. So, and I think it's like problem in many different countries, because farming hemp in Europe, it's not that difficult, you know. It's just about like building the infrastructure and finding the right people to putting the project together and make it running, you know. And of course, it's not small investment, but the demand is there, like all these like green deals and bioeconomy, which focus on bio-based industries. Bio-based industries, usually plant-based industries, you know. So can be also like wood material. It's also bio-based, which kind of compete with hemp, but not that much, because scale up of farming trees or planting trees, like it's like 40 till like 80 years that you have to wait before we can harvest the forest. So in hemp, you can really like from 1 year to another year scale up your operation. You just go give a contract to the farmers, you provide them seeds, you help them with the harvesting, and you buy their product. And for farmer, it's not that difficult to grow hemp, because when they sow it, they don't need to go like on the field one time. Yeah, they just sowing it and then wait for harvest. And this is like very interesting for farmers, because on the other crops they have to do some spraying and some whatever, a lot of operation, sometimes even like 10 operation on some crops to really do before they can harvest it. And it's a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of fuel, a lot of just stuff to do before you get like money back. And if they can just like sow hemp and like wait, the hemp will grow. Of course, they have to prepare the soil and fertilize the soil like for the other crops. But this is nothing extra. They do it with other crops as well. So they used to do it. But for them, it's very good that they don't need to go there. Since sowing maybe once, like to do rolling or something, or maybe they apply like some fertilizers when it's like if they wasn't able to apply them before. But in the general, it's not that time consuming crop during like the vegetation period. So it can be interesting for farmers to do it. I believe that. And they will like to do it, but they need somebody who will buy it. Farmers are not the right people to run the cultivation lines, maybe in some cooperatives, but here needs to come somebody who will run the cooperative and really help the farmers focus on farming, and then somebody else can focus on processing and all operation after the farming, you know, which is very logistic, market, technically, like, kind of can get complicated. I don't say it's like very complicated, because it's really not, but you need to have some skills and background to be able to run it. And not that people out there like who are like and just like sitting and do it. Yeah, it's not like bakery. Everybody like bakes bread at home, and maybe one day they think, okay, I go bake bread. It's like very like business plan what everybody can put together. It's not that difficult. Bakeries are everywhere, so you can check it out. But this is a little bit more like complicated and need more skilled people to run it.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you for inspiring the farmers. I would also like to say thank you for this conversation. And I will stop the recording here with that thank you and open up the floor for a discussion. All right?
All right.